So I'm super excited to be here with you because we have a belief that you need to work with the living. Don't even bother with the people who won't participate in their own rescue. So one of the things that I've learned about you is that you are the great leaders who are really, truly, and honestly changing the culture and changing history and changing how we're experiencing our world right now. So that is exciting that I'm able to come here and help you learn how, with a simple framework, how to be better leaders and lead your teams to create those changes faster, easier, and more productively. Okay, so tribal leadership is a framework. What I'd like to do is like a choose your own adventure thing. So how many of you have ever heard of tribal leadership, have read the book, watched a video, listened to an audiobook? Okay, great. And I'm assuming the rest of you have not? Okay, great. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a simple introduction to what tribal leadership is, why you should care about it, how you can use it to assess your teams and move them, figure out where they're at and where you need them to be and how to get them there. So we're going to do all that today. So why you should care. This is from the Gallup survey in 2012. Essentially, the people who are at the top quartile in engagement get better results. So what we showed in our research was done over 8.5 years, and we surveyed about 20,000 people, 24,000 people in dozens of different organizations. And what we found was that for every stage, we identified 5 different stages. And for every stage that a culture or a team was performing at, they got 300 to 500% improvement over the stage in front of it, before it. So that matters for you because this is the thing that'll help you be able to move faster and get better results and ship your products sooner. So what we mean by tribes, maybe you can recognize or identify some of the tribes that you affiliate with, some of the great brands that you associate with. Some of those brands are in the room represented by the product managers today. Some of you also belong to some other tribes. Thank you, that is so helpful. So some of you belong to other tribes, like the MBA tribe. I saw the folks that have MBAs. Where are you? Okay, great. And then we've got the PM tribe. Obviously, you belong to that tribe. But what we mean by tribes are the 20 to 150 people that you spend the most time with, or the 20 to 150 people that you work with and can influence, whether you are whether you're the leader of that team or whether you're a participant in that team. So stage one, the general feeling at stage 1 is that life sucks. Life is inherently broken. The folks in the tribes at stage 1 are separated, isolated, and really disenfranchised. If you think of like a stage 1 tribe, homeless people would be a good example of a stage 1 tribe. A working tribe, so of all working tribes, only 2% show up at stage 1. And an example of that would be Enron in the early 2000s, after they were doing fancy math and found a new way to do business. They were well known in the world for being a really great values-driven, very successful organization. And when that company started falling apart and the scandal became well known, working in that tribe, they kept downgrading, and that became a stage 1 tribe. At stage 1, people are willing to do whatever it takes to protect themselves and to protect their families. So one of my favorite examples of that is from popular culture, the TV show Breaking Bad, where a guy finds out he's got cancer and he's going to do whatever it takes to protect himself, figure out how to take care of himself and his family, even if that becomes, is becoming a meth dealer. Now, I have 4 children, and they let me watch 1 season of Breaking Bad, and I also have a degree in chemistry from UCLA, and so they thought it was just way too scary, and they made me stop. So I only watched the first season. I don't know what happened afterward. So one of the things that we missed in the book and that we don't talk about enough is the gifts of the stages, the gifts of the lower stages, and the dark side of the upper stages. So the gift of stage 1 is that willingness to do whatever it takes. And someone at stage 1 might step in front of a line of tanks that's marching into Tiananmen Square because of what they believe in. So that is something that would happen at stage 1 that might not happen at some of the other stages. Stage 2 is about 25% or a quarter of our working tribes. The general feeling or the general meme at stage 2 is that not all of life sucks, not all of life is broken, just mine. It's me. The general feeling or the prevailing experience at stage 2 is complaining. So think about the people that you hang out with. Now, maybe it's not your main work tribe, but maybe there's some other tribes that you belong to where complaining is the coin of the realm, and how badly your life sucks is the competition that you're in. Now, I've been married for 25 years, and my husband and I, when we had 4 small children, our children are grown now, but at a point we had 4 small children, we got into the silent competition of whose life sucked worse. So he would go to work, and I was home with 4. Oh my gosh, they were so little, they were so cute, but oh my gosh, it was hard. It's crazy. Any of you have kids? Okay, great. So you know what I'm talking about. Like, life is crazy. And so he'd come home and I'd tell him who didn't sleep, who broke what, because we have 4 boys. So like just keeping them alive is a full-time job. So, who didn't sleep, who broke what kind of disaster my day was today. I would just tell him how horrible that was. And then he'd tell me how badly his life sucked. And I just realized, like, I don't know, after a little while, I maybe slept 2 nights in a row and I had like this little stroke of genius. And I said, wow, this really sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. So I like to experiment on my family. They don't like that either. But I decided, like, I'm not doing this. I'm not complaining anymore. I'm gonna do it different. So he came home and I decided, instead of telling him all the things that went wrong, I'm just gonna tell him all the things that went right. And so I collected all the evidence during the day of all the fun I was having, all the great, how brilliant his children were, and how great my life was. At the same time, I was raising children and running businesses. I'm also a serial entrepreneur, so I was running at least one business at the same time. So I'd tell him about the success of the day and like how great everything was. And I didn't sit him down and have a talk with him. I didn't say, listen, we can't do this complaining thing anymore. It just sucks. I said, I'm just not doing it anymore. It took him, we're really competitive and we're overachievers in our house, but it took him exactly 3 days to come home and start telling me how great his life was. So try that. If you happen to find yourself in a tribe that likes to complain, stop tolerating the complaining. That's a way to shift from stage 2 to stage 3. And, look for, a lot of you were talking about in your introductions, looking for a mentor. And especially that's very popular among young professional women because of Lean In. And what I want to say to you right now is that training, mentoring, and education is a great way to move people from stage 2 to stage 3, the next most productive stage. But my message to you, all of you in this room, is that it's really great to stand up and say, I'm looking for a mentor, but you are the mentors. Go out and look for a mentee. Stop looking for somebody to take you under their wing. Go out and give what you need to give, because you have gifts, and there are women and men underneath you who are looking for that and who really desperately need that. You are the room full of mentors. You need to go out and do that. So stage 3. Stage 3 is the prevailing feeling is that I'm great. And unfortunately, it has this dark side, because if I'm great, that implies really that you're not. Sorry to break that to you, but I can only be great if someone else is less than. So it's actually what we're taught in our education systems and what we're taught in our professional careers to strive for. It's where credentials live, it's where excellence lives, it's where education lives. And one of the things that's happened in our work is stage 3 has become really demonized, because it's prevailing. It's almost half of all employed work tribes. And so it's a very prevailing part of the culture, and it will hold us back. It'll hold us back from being effective and great contributing team members, and having great contributing teams that can change the world. So stage 3 got really demonized. And what we want to say is, like, make sure you're looking for the gifts of stage 3. And the gifts of stage 3 are excellence and competence. So there became this trend in the world of hiring for values and training for skills. And we are here to tell you, do not do that. Hire for values and skills. You need people to know their jobs. You need people to be really brilliant individual contributors. You need to be great. You need to be excellent, and you need to bring your strengths and your gifts to your team so that you can be a contributing team member and so that you can have a stage 4 tribe. So stage 4, anybody know what this image is? Anybody recognize this image? It represents 2 great tribes, 2 great, pretty well-known tribes. It is a spaceship, a piece of art that was created for Burning Man. and is currently housed on campus at Zappos. And it also happens to be a conference room that you can schedule to have meetings. Now, this may look different than some of the conference rooms you go to meetings in. I can tell you for sure it looks different than a lot of conference rooms that I go to meetings in. I'm trying to figure out how I could get I was working with yesterday 35 doctors. I'm pretty sure that they would not want to climb into the spaceship to do this workshop. So just think about what is the experience you're creating, because as product managers, one of the things I've noticed about you is how very committed you are to creating great experiences. So think about the experiences you're creating with everything that you're doing. At stage 4, the language is we, us, and them. At stage 4, we actually know our competition because we're great, but they're not. So, we're hearing even a little bit of that in this room today. There's some competition present in the room. And you're also transcending the competition. So I've heard some of the speakers, instead of, having a real strict competitive edge or attitude, what they're doing is they're actually really appreciating and differentiating themselves, and that is something that's going to happen at higher levels of stage 4. At the lower levels of stage 4, think of your team sports or your colleges, your universities, the crosstown rivalries. That's a very stage 4 experience. It's us, we, and them. Then at stage 1, the language that you want to listen for is I, me, and mine. It's all about what I know and what I have to contribute and what I think. So you can just start listening for the language, and you'll be able to resonate and hear where your teams, where your tribes are at. And then stage 5 is an upgrade yet again to not just we are great, but all of life is great. And it is only 2% of functioning tribes. Another mistake people find when they first dive into our work is that they think stage 5 is the goal. And stage 5 is not the goal. We actually think stage 4 is the goal. Stabilizing your high-performing team at stage 4, having it be values-based, and having your relationships be, we'll talk a little bit more about it, triadic instead of dyadic, having the language be more specific about us and what we're working on. Somebody was even talking earlier about, there was a question, how do we get to consensus? Consensus is something that at early stage 4, people think they really need. The dark side of stage 4 is this niceness. Everybody thinks that stage 4 is this rainbows and unicorns, everybody dancing through the fields getting along. And it really isn't. It'll limit you if you think that it's only about consensus. You still need decision makers, and really you still need competition, and you still need dissension. You still need feedback. And the mistake of trying to always make everyone happy will hold you back and keep you from being able to get to stage 5, which is the next stage. So at stage 5, the competition becomes theoretical. It doesn't become actual. So one of my favorite examples is a little tech startup called QLess that we work with. And their competition, or their great outrage, is that we spend any time in our lives waiting in lines, that they want to eradicate line waiting. They call lines human storage systems. So we've all participated in that, right? We've all had experiences where we've been standing in line, and you're really powerless. I did it today. I flew from LA. Forgive me, I was from LA, but I learned how to recycle while I was here today. I'm just kidding. I knew how. I'm just kidding. I went through airport security. That's a line that you wait in. It's a very stage 2 tribe that I belong in, is a frequent travelers. Now, I'm a frequent enough traveler that I'm a little stage 3 about it. I'm great, and y'all aren't, because I have TSA PreCheck, and actually probably a lot of you do too. So now we're great together because we have TSA PreCheck. So by a quick poll of the room, this is the choose your own adventure part. We're going to find out where your prevailing tribes are. So figure out, from stage 1, life sucks, probably not. Stage 2, my life sucks, a lot of complaining. Stage 3, I'm great and you're not, a lot of competition, a lot of I, me, and my language. Stage 4 is we, and it's much more cooperative, based in values. And stage 5, life is great, much more. And again, stage 5 is not stable. Stage 5 is the thing that allows us to make history and to change culture, but these teams are not stable. So like an example, one of the other dark sides, the dark side of stage 5, is sometimes we're so committed to making a change that matters and to doing something for the sake of it because we can, that we don't always ask if we should. So a great example of a stage 5 tribe, a stage 5 team, was the Manhattan Project that produced the atom bomb that killed hundreds of thousands of people in 2 days. So, now there was a race to do that, but it needed to, it happened. And it was a stage 5 tribe. But the dark side of that is we don't always ask just because we can, should we? So by show of hands, I'm leaving stage 1 out. I'm assuming that if any of you belong to a stage 1 tribe, the upgrade is get a new tribe. So by show of hands, the tribe you work with, probably the team you manage, the tribe you spend the most amount of time with, if they're at stage 2. Stage 2, okay, great. Training, mentoring, and education is gonna help you move them up. Validation and looking for strengths. Stage 3 is your primary tribe. Stage 3, great, excellent. Stage 4 and stage 5. Okay, so this is exactly what we expected, is that so I took a poll, I did the math in my head while you guys were all raising your hands, and you're about 60% stage 4 and about 35% stage 3. So what I'm gonna do, I don't have enough time. How am I doing on time? Thank you. I don't have enough time to give you the upgrades from stage 3 to stage 4 and from stage 4 to stage 5. So what I'm going to do is blast through really quick, Ignite style, on how to upgrade from stage 3 to stage 4, and then I'm going to spend a little bit more time on how to move from stage 4 to stage 5. So moving from stage 3 to stage 4, the key points are listening for values, eliciting values using values-embedded stories, building triads based on values, and using your core values as a primary decision-making tool. So we're not going to play this video, so I'm just going to blast through it. There are some great, are you like, oh good, because there's no video there? So listening for values. There are great ways. I was sitting in my chair in the back listening for all of your values today. You can do it anytime. You can listen for values in a meeting, and you can practice listening for values by watching great videos online. You can watch the Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, completely filled with values. The Think Different ad campaign from the early 2000s is brilliant and filled with values. This one specifically is narrated by Steve Jobs, so it's kind of fun to listen to Steve Jobs actually narrate the video. You can find it on YouTube. So just listen for and practice listening for values. Tell values-embedded stories. Ask people, why did you come to work here? In your industry, people job hop. You're very upwardly mobile, but that means most of you haven't been in your current role for very long. And probably a lot of people on your team, they need a lot of incentives to stay, or they might move. So asking them what they value, because most of them didn't come to you for money, maybe, but that's not what I'm hearing in this tribe. This tribe doesn't care as much about money as they do about the impact, and as they do about actually making true, actual cultural change. That's what I'm hearing here, is the opportunity to do something that matters really is what you guys are about, and it's what the people on your teams are about. So if you can start asking questions, why did you come to work here? Or telling the story. It is so important for you to be telling the story about why you came to work here and why you choose to be where you're at and do what you do. Also asking questions like, what's something you're really proud of? And you can ask that anytime you're doing, you're testing a product. Anytime somebody's showing you something new and you're working on it, you can say, hey, what's something you're really proud of about this? Or what's a huge failure or disappointment that, that you can remember that really was formative for you. These values-embedded stories, you tell them, other people will tell them. You've all had that experience of being with people and you tell a story and then they tell a story and then you tell a story and then they tell a story, and it just could go on for days. Those are values-embedded stories. When you connect with somebody at the level of values, you could just trade stories all day long. So that's gonna actually upgrade your tribe from 3 to 4. It's just storytelling, eliciting stories and telling stories. Another upgrade is building triads based on values, and I'm using one of my favorite examples of one of my favorite triads is from Star Wars, Luke, Han, and Leia. And essentially what it is it's 3 people in a relationship having the backs of each other. So there was a great scene in, I think it was The Empire Strikes Back, where Han says to Leia, I'll get out of the way if you and Luke want to have a relationship. I can tell you really love him. And she's like, yeah, because he's my brother, idiot. Like she kind of but he was willing to get out of the way to support that relationship. So in a triad, we take responsibility for the other relationships that we're in that triad. So that was really fast and furious. I apologize. I have about 5 minutes. Upgrading from stage 4 to 5. Discover your outrage, upgrade your competition, create some time pressure, and make history. Does that work? There we go. So discovering your outrage. This is the gift of stage 2, knowing what you're really irritated about, knowing what you're pissed off about. What is it that makes you crazy? Figure that out and figure out what is that's driving your team and what is it that's driving your products. For a lot of nonprofits have a leg up on this. They're actively working to eradicate, some outrage, to make something right in the world. In our for-profit businesses, we don't necessarily have access to that as easily. I like to give you this example of Charity Water. They are upset that only 1 in 6 people on the planet have access to clean drinking water, and they're actively going about doing it. But that came up at stage 2. Like, they were outraged about the fact that people don't have access to clean drinking water. Figure out on your teams, what are you outraged by, and what is your team outraged by, and use that to drive you forward. Upgrade your competition. So this is one of our favorite stories is if you'd asked the Pixar team about 5 years ago who was their competition, they would tell you hair because they couldn't render hair. They said, have you seen Toy Story? We're so close. Everything looks so real. We are almost there. The hair, it looks like Legos. We can't do it. So their competition was hair. And when they cracked the code on hair, they made a whole movie about it. It's called Brave. And if you have little girls, maybe you've seen it. Little boys too. But it's a full-on tribute to hair. It's about the girl's hair, the mom's hair, the bear's hair, the little boy's hair. The forest is furry. It's about, it is a tribute to the fact that they cracked the code and now know how to do hair. So figure out who is your competition. It's not, necessarily what you think it is. Look for what is it that you could do that would make a difference. Figure out who your competition is, what your competition is. Create some time pressure. Now, Steve Jobs is pretty well known for making things happen. He's also well known for not being the nicest of leaders. However, he got things done. And one of the things that he had the luxury of knowing that most of us don't fully appreciate is that he did not have enough time on this planet to do the work that he wanted to do. And none of us do. The clock is ticking. None of you have enough time to do all the great work that you're here for. So, you're talking about, I created a ship date that was 1 month out and they didn't do it. And then I created a ship date that was, 2 months out and every time. So, are our teams ignoring our ship dates? And how can we create some more time pressure around that's real? Maybe we need to gamify it. Maybe we need to incentivize it. Maybe there's something that we need to do for our team to make that ship date a little more accessible or to create that time pressure. But what I'm here to tell you today is that the clock is ticking and that you're here to make huge changes on culture and on your businesses and on your teams, and you do not have the luxury of waiting until next Monday to do it or waiting for 6 months to do it. You got to do it now. And essentially making history. So ask yourself, to get from stage 4 to stage 5, is what could we do really that would change culture, that would change history, that would be the equivalent of eradicating rotary phones or telephone booths or taxi lines. My gosh, I'm like the biggest fan of Uber. It's like anything that can, if you can change culture enough and change history, you're very likely making a stage 5 play. To receive any more information, to stay in touch with me, you can text in to 96000, text leadership. You can get free tools. You can also get them at culturesync.net/toolbox. There's a ton of information on how, tools and things that you can take your teams through and assessments that you can use completely for free. It's all open source, so, just go there, have a ball. And if you have any questions for me, you can reach me at kish@culturesync.net. Thank you.